just wondering what
Yeah.
sense you had.
Kind of. You talk to some of the coaches that were here in the past that have worked with those guys. You watch the film, obviously, so you got a feel. But I don't think until you get them out there and you coach them, you work with them, you challenge them with some of the things that you're going to ask them to do in your scheme, that you really know. So I'm just really, really anxious, as I know a lot of our coaches are, just to get out there and put these guys through individual drills and challenge them a little bit and see what we got. But just curious, I think, like everybody, to see what we got.
Is it a different kind of spring when you're learning the team as much as preparing for anything?
A little bit. I think it'll be, you kind of stick. Okay, here's our core of what we do. Expose them to a lot, challenge them to a lot, and then see kind of, okay, who are your playmakers, and how can we, as we get more towards training camp in the fall, then kind of tweaking your offense to fit those guys and take advantage of their skill set. And some of that will even probably be through like the first 3 games of seeing, which guys step up, make plays in competitive situations like that, and we'll see. But I love what we do offensively, being flexible enough to play, the scheme being flexible enough to play off those different, talents, to where we can take advantage of what we got.
You're able to bring in a quarterback who's been in your system and knows your scheme. I mean, how much are you expecting that to kind of help us transition here?
That's huge. It's huge. Bringing Aidan over and just having worked with him for a year and gone through a season with him and having experience in what we do is huge. Anytime you get that, so that's big for us. And but at the same time, we've got 4 other guys that are the system's totally new, so catching those guys up. But yeah, I think it's awesome to have a young guy that's got experience in it. It'll put him quite a bit ahead.
How much is time of possession kind of valued as far as you're concerned? I mean, when you look at Michigan State the last couple of years, I mean, they sometimes got out of whack there, and so the defense was kind of out of the field for a lot. I mean, how much is that a factor in how you?
I mean, I think it'll naturally happen. The way that we huddle, and change the tempo through some one-word calls and whatnot. But we base out of the huddle, and we want to run the football. So naturally, I think that time of possession goes. But shoot, at the same time, you look at teams that huddle and run the football, and the more explosive you are, sometimes the less time of possession you get. So I don't know. We don't always really talk about that too much on offense. For us, I think it's successfully running the ball, staying ahead of the sticks, being on schedule that way, and I think naturally that stuff will take care of itself. But at the same time, we also want to be explosive and score as many points as we can, and just see how that all balances out.
How much is complementary? You talk about it with Joe, and just about the complementary football and the idea of one playing off the other a little bit.
Yeah. No, totally. I think it's understanding the field position piece of that whole thing, and when you maybe want to be more aggressive in certain situations and going for it on 4th down, and that stuff all factors in. But I feel like with Coach Smith, that's been a big piece of our success. And what we've been able to have success with is playing that complementary ball and working the field position.
Beyond the physical tools that Aidan has, what are the intangibles, I guess, that you like with him?
Say the first part of it.
Beyond the physical tools that he has that are pretty obvious, what are the sort of intangibles he has?
Aidan's got a really cool personality. I think it's like, something we're always looking for recruiting a QB is like that moxie, that kind of that it factor we talk about, to where he's got that confidence, that kind of swagger to the way that he plays, and he does a really nice job of if he does make a mistake, flushing that play, moving on to the next. And when he gets hot and getting going, he's one of the more talented guys that I've been around that way. But just infectious personality about the way he carries himself on the field. I think you guys, when you're on the field during the spring and getting a feel for how he carries himself, is pretty special that way. And those are the things that the really big time talented guys that I've been around all have that characteristic, and Aidan's got that, which is pretty cool.
Coach ran a 2-quarterback system, right? I mean, where you had 2 quarterbacks on the field at the same time. Is that something you can envision?
Yeah, I mean, not ideally. It's not ideal. I think that last year was a pretty unique circumstance. We had DJ, who was, man, ended up winning the job, tons of experience, veteran guy. And then we had Aidan, who we felt like was just a special talent as a young guy, and wanted to kind of keep him coming along. And we did give him a series in each game, and he ran with it, did a nice job. And but I think ultimately, for me, having played the position, you want to pick a guy, hey, here's our guy, and let him get into the rhythm of the game, and let him know that it's his. And each year is unique, and I don't want to, can't speak to it now what's going to be, but ultimately I think it's you're picking a guy and letting him run.
How about in previous years you had that jackhammer system, or
Yeah.
literally took quarterback?
That was kind of it was almost like its own personnel. Jack was a former quarterback that
Right.
moved to defense, and we used him probably more in short yardage situations. And that was, again, just take advantage of personnel, a guy that had called snap counts, had handled, made checks for us. We felt really comfortable with him doing some of that, and we'll see if we have somebody like that here. Hopefully, that was a pretty good package for us. And but yeah, always I think just trying to see again what unique talents that we've got within the personnel that we can play off of. We want to take advantage of that.
Coach, Lindsay Ellison, congratulations and welcome. Sports Psychology Solutions, all my questions are rooted in mental toughness and mental health. So right now, do you think back to when you were a player as it relates to the mindset you would want your team to have, your quarterback to have, or if times change where it's some of the same and something different, just as far as mindset and expectations?
Yeah, I think kind of the old school mindset, I think, from QB was like, that was instilled in me was like toughness, competitiveness, that kind of deal, where like that's what we want the QB position to exude. Like, man, this guy can take some shots and guys are going to respond to that. He's the toughest, most competitive guy on the field. I do think that the mental side has grown and it's become a bigger piece of handling the social media and how much exposure you're going to take when maybe you have an off week or an off performance, and how can you respond to that, and being focused on the day-to-day of like, hey, this is what my task is in this moment, like staying in the moment that way. And I think also, like, I throw an interception, I have a bad drive, turn the ball over, whatnot, how do I bounce back from that?
Use that term, flush it. You can flush it and be done.
Flush it and be done with it. And we talk about kind of one snap and clear, one snap and playing the one snap and then clear mine, moving on. And that's a big piece of what we try to. I just think that piece of it has become a lot bigger. And I know that there's some people around the program here that we try to get our guys around and expose and work with. And I think that's a huge part of the game, and a part of the game that I feel like you can, if you work at that part of the game, you can create a competitive advantage, I guess, against your competition. Everybody's doing the same, in terms of practices, weight staff, all that. But the edge, I think, the mental edge of the game, to me, is where we really challenge our guys to try to get a competitive advantage in that way, particularly at the quarterback position.
Good, thanks so much.
Do you see Tanner Miller as like a leader in the O-line room? And is he a center or a guard?
I think Tanner can do both. We're going to ask him to do some center. As far as a leader, I think he's got experience, and I think the leadership piece. He's coming in as a new guy. He's got to come in and earn that. And I think that anytime you got a guy that's got experience playing at this level and has had success and knows the system, yeah, we'd love for him to come in and be, take a leadership role. But that'll be something that he'll have to come in and earn. But yeah, Tanner, I think he's one of the things I love about him is he's done both. We feel comfortable with him snapping the ball, and he was our backup center, primarily at Oregon State, and then but he's, anytime you feel comfortable with that guy snapping the football is a good thing to have. So yeah, we'll try him at center. I don't know where he'll end up landing, but I know he's going to take a lot of reps at center this spring.
With the wide zone concepts you guys run, you take a lot of look at Shanahan and some of the stuff that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys. I don't know if it's even more than half the NFL's been running that type of West Coast system that, and I say modern pro style. I think those guys have done a really good job of tweaking the system a little bit from what it was 15, 20 years ago or whatnot, and being just kind of the under center, stagnant. Now they've been drops and, different motions, some different ways of getting some of this stuff. But yeah, those are some of the, in my mind, the best offenses in the world. With those guys, some of the best minds in the world as far as offensive football. And we study the Niners and the Lions. I think do a great job, and they're all kind of tied in that tree. It is somebody that we study for sure in the offseason.
What do you think is most effective about those offenses? Is it just the overloading kind of personnel to one side, or using?
Yeah, to me, it's how multiple they are, and they're able to do the same things, the same concept, I guess, through multiple looks, to where you're truly keeping things simple for us. And we've got, like you said, the wide zone concept. Our guys have got hundreds, if not thousands, of banked reps running the wide zone, but you're running in a multitude of different ways where it looks like you're doing a lot more than you really are. And then the big thing for me is how those guys are able to create explosive passes. And they do that by marrying the run and the pass. They make them look the same on rundowns, and they stay on schedule, and are able to keep defenses off balance that way. And then to me, like, scoring points is about creating explosive plays, and those guys are some of the best at doing that.
Excuse me, quarterback is such an important position in your sport these days. You have a potentially dynamic player coming in who's a multi-talented guy, not necessarily a drop-back passer. So offensively, are you forced to build your philosophy around your quarterback depending on what style he plays?
Absolutely, yeah. We always want to play off our personnel, and our offense from a year ago with DJ will look different than it will with Aidan, and we called the game a little bit differently when he was in the game a year ago, just based on his skill set. And that's something that I've challenged our staff to look at. Okay, here's a guy that we feels like a really talented guy. How can we build the offense around him while staying, with some of the key things that we believe in? So that's something that's a project of ours that we've been working on, and probably see a little bit of it in the spring and then going through the fall. But always want to play off his skill set and what he's comfortable with.
I switched tables, so I apologize if you've covered this ground, but what attracted you to Michigan State and Jonathan Smith? I mean, what made this an appealing move for you? Haven't been with Jonathan for 6 years, and I really believe in the way that he runs a program, and his philosophy of the way that he treats not only players but coaches. I think the quality of life, as far as your family, the way he treats coaches, and that way, hey, we're going to work hard, but it's also going to have some time to be able to spend with your family, and that, and understanding the importance of that. And then, like I said, believing in the way that he does things. I think everything we do makes sense. I really believe, and that's easy to kind of get behind. And then coming to Michigan State, just to me, the history and tradition of the program playing, getting to play and compete in the Big Ten Conference. I always think, having recruited, in quarterbacks against Michigan State, I feel like that's a national brand. It really excites me that I feel like we can get some big time talent, to work with, offensively. That's exciting. And like I said, the tradition, they had this place going, won 10 or 11 games, right, 2 or 3 years ago, and then what they did through that, really the last 20 years or whatnot, just a lot of success, a ton of wins, making it physical. I think kind of lines up some of the things that we believe in, and I'm excited to be here. Spring ball even more important when there's a new staff and new players?
Yeah, absolutely. Every minute that we can spend with those guys, it is nice having, we got 4 of the full-time coaches came over on offense that know the offense, and there's some comfort there. But just getting around these players as much as we can, and meetings, walkthroughs, just taking advantage of every opportunity we can to get better will be big for us.
With the familiarity with Jonathan Smith, tell us what we might not know about him that makes him a little separate or special.
He's really he's a super competitive guy, one of the more competitive guys, and I think sometimes even in practice he's very quiet, he's very reserved, but you get around him from anything that he's doing, whether if you're playing golf, you're shooting hoops, you're doing anything like that. The guy is one of the more competitive guys that I've been around, and it doesn't always come off like that because he's this very reserved, nice guy. The guy's one of the more competitive people I've been around.
Can you talk about how you put together that quarterback recruiting class. It's a weird situation where I'm sure you've never been in a deal where you come into a program and there's 0 quarterbacks, and then you have to go, you have to get transfer, obviously, 2 portal guys and then 2 high school guys. It's a unique situation. Can you kind of talk about?
Yeah, it was. I've never been in part of anything like that. I mean, I stepped off the plane. I think it was the Monday after the last game of the season, November, and I got off the plane. And all those guys had gone in the portal. It was wild. And my wife called me. and was like, "Hey, you got a great first day." You know what I mean? Got no quarterbacks on the roster, and it was really challenging. Just the time frame of like, hey, we had 2.5 weeks, I think, before that first signing day, and. To get Aidan over was, when he went in was huge, and then, but it also made it challenging at the same time. Hey, you're bringing someone from your, program that you were at, that you recruited, and then, who wants to come? What other transfer wants to come be a part of that program when you got a young guy that you recruited that you're bringing in?
Right.
So it was really challenging talking to other transfers that way, and fortunate enough we were able to find Tommy, a guy that. All-time leading passer in North Dakota, and has played a lot of ball and gives us some experience in the room. And then just 2.5 weeks to throw together, find some freshmen. We like the guys that we brought in. Obviously, there was some familiarity recruiting Rylan from when we were at Oregon State, but Alessio, a guy that kind of went through and watched a lot of guys in the Midwest and felt like he was a really kind of talented, under-recruited guy, and excited about what he brings.
What did you like about him? I mean, what stood out about Leslie?
Arm talent, and I think he was really productive. That's one of the things that's really big to me is our guys, they look good throwing it in the drills and whatnot, but what are they winning games and are they producing? And his touchdown interception ratio is off the charts, and playing at, in that Catholic League in Chicago, won a lot of games and did some good things, but he's got big time arm talent. We just got to keep working on his, quickening his feet up.
Is your family?
What's that?
Has your family made the move? Was everybody with you?
Yeah, spring break falling last week. I was, it wasn't like I was heading to Florida, and going to chase the sun or whatnot. But yeah, headed back to Oregon. We were able to kind of get packed and moved up, and they actually got back, and we got over here Thursday officially. So there's 3 kids, and so yeah, I've got 8th grade boy, 7th grade daughter, 3rd grade boy. Yep, and so we're in kind of a Airbnb right now, and then we'll be moving to our home, I think, towards the end of March. But to get them out here is awesome. Like, get them out here, and they're champs as far as leaving school in the middle of the semester or whatnot, and coming out and starting new is never easy. But it's just awesome to get them. Get them out here full time, and that's definitely kind of nice to kind of check the box that way as far as.
Tough at that age. They got to get used to a new school, new environment, new friends.
Yeah, new sport. Sports teams, and daughter's a dance. She's gonna find a dance studio, so we're kind of wife's out doing all that stuff right now. But it's great to get them out here, and it'll be good. Excited to be out here.
Jack Valling, what does he do for you? Obviously, he had a huge year last year.
Yeah, Jack, I think is a savvy player. I think he does a nice, obviously he's got a lot of physical talent and ability that way, but I always think those guys that put up good numbers in the tight end position are really savvy as far as the way that they can create separation and understand, zones, zone coverage and finding spaces in zone coverage with different option routes and different things that we ask him to do. And Jack's kind of got that savviness about the way he plays, and I just think I look for his role to grow even more, just having the experience from last year and just being able to do some more things with him. And then I think he's grown a little bit as a blocker. His first year coming in as a freshman, needed to put him on some strength, and he was great when we flexed him out, but when we would put him in line and ask him to do some stuff in the run game, he was getting exposed a little bit. Last year, I think he took some steps that way, and working with our tight ends coach, Coach Wozniak, those guys have done a great job with him. So I just think him growing into that position where he can really go in line, he can flex out, we can do a lot of different things. I ask him to do a lot of different things. It's going to make us better.
You got time for a couple more.
I asked Joe this. He's a guy that has kind of Midwest ties, Midwest roots. For you guys, coming from the other side of the coast, how much do you lean on a guy like that? How much do you lean on the guys that, both from recruiting and program building, to kind of put the Midwest stamp on this program?
Huge, yeah, huge. I mean, as much as asking them questions about all the time about one you said like a conference and the way things run here, and then also recruiting. Just now, not spent a lot of time recruiting of here were the schools that we need to hit. These guys usually produce players, and travel questions, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, leaning heavily, and it's good to have a big chunk of our staff to have that kind of that Midwest Big Ten experience, which would be good. And it's been fun for me just recruiting a little bit of some new part of the country and getting to know some new coaches that way. I'm just excited for me to play some games at during the day, like at noon every now and then, like
That's 9 a.m. your time, man.
Yeah, I love it. I was jealous. You could watch game day and then Big Ten's playing at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Like, dude, these guys are going to be on their couch.
Can you remember the last time you watched
in the
Michigan
afternoon.
State game?
Yeah.
Remember any?
Michigan State. I've watched a number through the years. Yeah, I feel like because we're always. Michigan State was playing during the day, and we would just be sitting in the hotel waiting to play at Pac-12 after dark at gosh knows when those games. But yeah, I've watched plenty of Michigan. I can remember from when Coach Saban was here through those ones.
I'm sorry. I'm sure you've been asked this already, but the quarterback position obviously is the most important of an offense, and having the familiarity that you have with Aidan Chiles, just how does that help when there is so much newness around this program, and even the guys that have been here for a few seasons, they're gonna have to learn how the staff operates and everything.
Yeah. No, it's huge. I mean, it's anytime you get a guy that's familiar with the system and then kind of knows how you work and operate, call it on game day, and expectations, for how you practice. It's great to have somebody in the room that's been with you like that. Is almost a veteran guy that can bring the other 4 quarterbacks that we've got in as far as this is how we run this drill. This is the expectation, in the off season for how we do things and operate and do things in the weight room. I just think that's a big piece, particularly going into a new program and how he carries himself. The other positions as well. Seeing him how he operates and how we expected them.
What did you learn about him just last season? Not necessarily about what he can do on the field, but also just how he is as a leader.
Yeah, he was young, and he kind of was the backup and came and played in some drives. But I love the way he carries himself, the confidence that he plays with, kind of a free spirit to where he just. If he has a bad play, he can move on to the next, and he does that better than any young guy that I've been around. And just like I said, the confidence, the swagger, the ability to focus. He showed that in scrimmages early in fall camp, and we wondered, okay, when the lights come on and the fans get out there, is he going to be able to, all that stuff, is that going to be able to transition? And he was able to go out there and make checks and function in that environment, and that was pretty cool to see from a young guy.
Brian, going off that a little bit, I don't know if you've addressed this already, I apologize if you have, but how do you sort of challenge Aidan now, as year 2, hey, this is different, and if it's going to be the starter, this is different, this is different, that it's not just running it back necessarily from last year, and hey, I got my coaches, everything's good, I assume you want to challenge him. And
totally. He's big. I think guys make the biggest jump year 1 to year 2, and he's maturing, and I think taking the next step in his game as far as I think understanding of defenses, and I think also in the way that he prepares during the week, having to be the starter, and I think he saw DJ. It was really good for him to be around DJ. DJ done it for a while, and he was a pro in the way that he, went about preparing during the week, and I think that's going to be huge for him. And what we're going to challenge him to do is, you're going in. If you're going in as the starter, this is the stuff I got to do Sunday to, game time to put myself in a position to be successful.
You seen him take on that different role already in these?
Through some of the meetings and stuff, I think he's headed in the right direction. But that's something that as we get going, he's more of the veteran guy now, is making it a habit, as opposed to just
How do you find and build the leaders right now? And have you kind of seen any guys maybe emerging as maybe vocally more than anything right now?
I see some, and I've just got to be around them more before I name names or whatnot. But there's some guys that have been around here that it's important to them, and they're competitive guys. And to me, right now, it's about the guys that go out and do the work. You know what I mean? The guys that are working hard and being positive, encouraging teammates, and I think there's a number of guys that have stood out that way, and hopefully that continues to grow. But I'll have more specifics, probably the names, as we get to go in the spring and we're able to see them kind of go through some rougher times and see how they handle some adversity that way.
Aidan choosing to come play for you guys again after having the year of experience, what does that say about him, I guess, or maybe what does that, hopefully you hope says that about you guys as a staff? He had opportunities, I'm sure, that could have been whatever, but to choose you guys a second time, what does that say about both parties?
No, it's huge. I feel like it meant a lot. I know it meant a lot to Jonathan and I, just going through and getting to know the family. I have a big deal of respect for his family and the way that he was raised, the way that he is, and that was what drew us to him in the recruiting process. It's like, this is the guy that this is the type of kid we want in our program, that we want to be around on a daily basis, and a guy that we can build a program around. And it was cool. One of the reasons that we were so attracted to him was we felt like they were pretty loyal and loyal family that way, and it was really cool to see him stick with us and believe in things that the way that Coach Smith runs the program and what we're doing offensively. It means a lot.
How about the value of having a guy like Tommy and all his experience and what he can bring?
Totally, yeah. Tommy's played a lot of ball and has been productive, and the challenge to him is, can he do it at this level? And I just think, he's thrown for a bunch of yards. He's been on the road. He's had to handle, he's played on the road at Nebraska. He's played on the road at as a Boise, some of these places where the environment's a little bit tougher. He's had to go manage that. It's anytime that you can get that in your room, I think, is huge.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good to meet you.